stroke leaders.
Now is a more
Another
crucial
scare
time than
campaign
ever
for
for
Mr.
those
Howard.
who uphold family values to stand up and be counted.
G'day, welcome to YouDecide 2007's coverage of the federal election. YouDecide 2007 is a new concept in journalism. It's a site where you go and you decide what is important and you report it. Each week we'll be taking highlights from our website, and to help you we've got some of Brisbane's best and brightest. We've got Dale Spender, feminist, author, academic and ambassador for the colour purple. We've got John Harrison from the University of Queensland, raconteur and former public servant and Goss spinmeister. We've got Warwick Powell, who's the CEO of research firm Transpac. He's a former Goss government apparatchik and still a political tragic. And I'm Graham Young. I'm the founder and chief editor of eJournal Online Opinion. I'm also a former vice president of the Queensland Liberal Party. Each week we're going to be keeping our eye on our website where you decide and you report what's important to you. This is all about you and the election.
What are your thoughts on Australia's involvement in Iraq?
Well, I mean, you've got to look at actually what happened, and with the benefit of hindsight, one might at times make a different decision. But the Australian government was given intelligence that indicated that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction.
Okay, so what we've just seen from the site is two different stories, but they share one thing in common. Both those stories have been used by the mainstream media or by political parties as gotchas, fairly conventional gotchas, of politicians. In one case we've got Peter Lindsay making a comment about nuclear power to his opponent, and then that's picked up by the opponent. Then our journalist's gone along and searched his website. He's taken stuff off, but we've found the stuff that was there, and that forms the basis of a news story. On the other, you've got, again, a politician giving a fairly conventional view of life, and in this case the Courier Mail has grabbed just one part of it, which is him saying, well, perhaps with hindsight you wouldn't have gone into Iraq, and that's been blown up as a big story. Now, Warwick, you've run campaigns. I think you've run them fairly savagely and with a very tight leash on your candidates. What does this sort of coverage do to those sorts of campaigns? Does it make them redundant, or does it just force them to change the way they operate?
Graham, I think there's always been a tension between central campaigns and their attempt to control a message and the ability of local candidates to stray from that message, often for good reasons, but often for pretty silly reasons. I don't think that the new medium is the only reason why this happens, though. Take Belinda Neal yesterday, for example, who, with the aid of conventional television, gaffed on the GST. What this does, though, is that it adds just another dimension which makes it even harder to manage the message and control the message. You've got more people out there doing their own research, trying to expose you, as opposed to a smaller number of journalists who might or might not have time to do it. So it's time consuming, and I think it does open up an area of risk from the point of view of managing a campaign.
And a political party is going to be using this medium. Is this something which actually might become part of the campaigns, that a citizen journalist can be both a voter and also someone who's a member of a political party?
Well, in due course, I think what will happen is that rank and filers within political parties will jump onto this process as their way of spruiking and boosting their own side. So that's part of the risk of the capacity of this medium to elevate itself above the political process.
So, Dale, you're a voter in this instance. Do you pay any attention to these sort of gotchas? When you go and actually look at the material, do you think it's particularly shocking? Does it change the way you vote?
Oh, it definitely doesn't change the way I vote. What it does is disillusion me about the media, because it's actually making a story out of something that isn't a story, and therefore all the big stories just disappear on these tiny little things. And I think young people are quite right. You know, all our kids who are reared on YouTube and everything else are quite disillusioned with it as well, and think that it's a lot of fuss about nothing, which is why I think at the moment online stuff is doing so well, because it's still relatively unsophisticated, and once it does become, all the apparatchiks are using it for their own messages, it'll be like the traditional media. I think it's the fact that it's still a bit novel and a bit unsophisticated, but certainly I think at the moment it's a foil for the headlines in the newspapers that so frequently have no substance to them at all, and you really get upset by the time you've finished reading it. That, so what? So what, do you think? You know, these great headlines.
So is this a threat to people like John who train journalists? I mean,
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope so too. It seems to me, Graham, there are actually, we're talking about it as if it's a one big monolithic medium, but we've got a number of things happening. We've got YouTube, and the impact of YouTube is certainly in terms of political advertising. We can come back to that. Then there are the blogs, which are commentary, and I think there's a fair bit of self-indulgence in bloggery. And then there are sites like yours, which are, let's be kind and call them citizen journalism sites. So there's a number of layers of this.
Is that kind or condescending?
Well, let the viewer decide. The thing about the online sites the thing about YouTube in the first instance is that YouTube's got the capacity to get that sort of cut through, because what happens on YouTube will often be reported in the so-called mainstream media. And of course the classic cut through was the Obama girl advertisement for Barack Obama in the US campaign. Now, we have not seen anything as powerful as the Obama girl thing here in our campaign yet. But I think...
In fact, the thing with Obama girl was that Obama's official announcements, if they went really well, he got about 300,000 views. Obama girl had about 3 million views.
Yeah, perhaps Dale could explain to us, you know, the mechanics of why that would happen.
Well, I think it's probably the notoriety and the sensationalism of it again, that it attracts attention.
So
in the way
nothing
in
to
which
do with the quality of the YouTube video.
Oh, I don't think it's got anything to do with the quality of the video. It's got to do with what catches popular imagination. And also, younger people, what they can quickly text around. It becomes almost a cult, something like that. And I don't even think you could predict what it actually is going to be. I mean, I think if you could, you'd be a lot better prepared for some of these things. I think the people who make them are even as shocked sometimes. And, you know, we're talking about these YouTube online bits. We're talking about them as an audience, when in fact a huge part of their value is the making of them, that there are lots of young people out there making them and putting them up online, and that's like attending a town hall meeting in the past. That's actually participating, which is why I think this is so good, because they are involved in doing something.
Yeah, I think it's got a real organic edge to it, and it's a little subversive at the moment, but give it 10 years and I suspect it'll be mainstreamed.